Hello everyone, my name is Vanessa Hunt, and today we will be discussing the competence required to exercise the right to remain silent. This topic is crucial because it touches on legal rights that are fundamental to justice. What is competence? In legal terms, competence refers to a defendant's ability to understand the nature of their legal rights and proceedings. This includes the mental and cognitive ability to comprehend what it means to remain silent and to waive their rights knowingly and voluntarily. Competence is evaluated based on the individual's mental state and whether any impairments could affect their understanding. This also includes external factors like interrogation and the pressure that they are under. Miranda rights and competence. Miranda v. Arizona in 1966 set the foundation for protecting suspects' rights. According to the ruling, law enforcement must inform individuals of their rights, which include the right to remain silent and the right to legal counsel. For these warnings to be valid, the suspect must fully understand them. This is where competence comes into play, particularly in assuring that the waiver of such rights is made knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily. The law of confessions. The law surrounding confessions is complex, with the primary focus being on voluntariness. Courts must evaluate whether a confession was given freely or under coercive conditions. The totality of circumstances test is used to assess whether a suspect was competent at the time of the confession, taking into account factors like police behavior, psychological vulnerability, and the suspect's mental state. In some cases, even when the police use deception or psychological pressure, a confession may still be deemed voluntary under the law. Competence evaluations. Competence evaluations are typically conducted by mental health professionals when there are concerns about a defendant's ability to understand their rights. Grisso introduced a key instrument for assessing understandings and appreciation of Miranda rights, which focuses on a person's ability to comprehend the Miranda warnings, the vocabulary used, and the role of these rights during interrogation. Additionally, Rogers and his colleagues developed the standardized assessment of Miranda abilities, which includes 5 tools: the Miranda Comprehension Template, Miranda Quiz, Miranda Vocabulary Scale, Miranda Acquiescence Questionnaire, and the Miranda Reasoning Measure. These assessments help determine if the waiver of rights was made knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily, a critical legal standard for the admissibility of any confessions. Challenges in determining competence. Determining competence can be particularly challenging when suspects have psychological vulnerabilities, such as mental illness or intellectual disabilities. In these cases, the risk of coercion is higher, and police interrogation tactics can significantly impact the outcome. Legal cases, such as Brown v. Mississippi and Colorado v. Connolly, have set important precedents in establishing how coercion and mental impairment should be factored in determining competence. Miranda and false confessions. Research has shown that false confessions are a significant concern, particularly for vulnerable populations such as juveniles or individuals with cognitive impairments. Interrogation techniques like maximization, which involves making the suspect feel their situation is hopeless, and minimization, which downplays the severity of the offense, can lead to false confessions. These tactics can distort a suspect's understanding of their rights and their ability to exercise them. Key court cases. Several key cases have shaped the way competence to exercise the right to remain silent is handled. In Miranda v. Arizona, it ensures that suspects must understand and voluntarily waive their rights before any statements can be used in court. Brown v. Mississippi ruled that confessions obtained through physical coercion, example torture, are inadmissible. And Colorado v. Connolly held that a confession by a mentally impaired individual could still be admissible if there was no police coercion. Current legal standards. Today, the totality of circumstances test remains the primary method for determining whether a defendant was competent when waiving their rights. Judges have considerable discretion in assessing the voluntariness of a confession, especially in cases involving vulnerable populations. The goal of these legal safeguards is to ensure that no individual is coerced into waiving their rights or making confessions involuntarily. So here is a news article that illustrates the complexities of the Miranda rights in the case of Terrence Tico. And here's just a little brief backstory. In 2022, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled Vega v. Tico, where Tico, a nursing assistant, was interrogated by Los Angeles County Sheriff's Deputy Carlos Vega without being read his Miranda rights. Tico was accused of sexually assaulting a patient, and during the interrogation, he was coerced into writing an apology letter, which he claimed was forced. Tico's confession was used against him at trial, but he was later acquitted. Tico then sued Vega for violating his constitutional rights, specifically for not being Mirandaized. However, the Supreme Court ruled that Tico could not sue the officer for damages under federal civil rights law, narrowing the protection that Miranda rights offer to individuals during interrogation. And this case is relevant to my presentation because it highlights the limits of legal recourse when Miranda rights are violated and the impact on a suspect's ability to competently exercise their right to remain silent. So in conclusion, the competence to exercise the right to remain silent is a critical aspect of criminal law, particularly in assuring that the individuals understand their rights and are not coerced into waiving them. This topic remains highly relevant today as courts continue to grapple with the complexities of determining competence and protecting vulnerable defendants. Here is my discussion question. When suspects have mental health issues or learning disabilities, how should police change the way they ask questions to make sure the person really understands their rights? Do you think there's a good way to balance making sure suspects know their rights while still allowing the police to do their job? And here are my references. Thank you.